Good morning to all. Again, welcome back. Thank you for spending your time this morning with me, chasing some numbers around. And as you can see, we've got my direct reports that are sitting in this room at this point to kind of talk about some of the areas of interest, all of the stuff that we've got going on here at the Chateau, and answer some questions and hopefully make everyone feel good as we get through this. I know the numbers this morning should have been a good jumping off point there for that on the feel good, and hopefully we can just continue that. So one other thing, over the last year and all that's going on, we had just commented, and it's really nice to get together. This is the first time we've been face to face in a room having a meeting in several months, lots of months, and it really feels good, and it starts to feel like we're coming back. One thing we do want to respect in here, and we've tried to do, is we've got a lot more room at this table than it appears here. So we've taken chairs out, we've distanced ourselves. We're going to wear masks unless we've got something to say. So we're going to continue to emphasize safety and concern for our other residents. So be patient with us if it takes us a couple minutes or we forget to take our mask off and you can't understand. So anyway, thank you for coming. I'd like to start the meeting with an introduction. And over the last year, we know, and over the last years, we've all come to know Amy and appreciate all that Amy's done for the Chateau. And as I've told others, when I get run over by the bus, I hope they find somebody way better than me. And and that's the mentality I have when you have that. Whether it's someone else's choice or your choice, you always want to find someone else, and it makes all of us better. And in this case, I'd like to introduce Morgan Slattery. Morgan's joining us as the COO and administrator. And she's got a wealth of experience, and again, I'm looking so much forward to all the things that she's going to bring to the Chateau over the years. So I'm going to let Morgan take a few minutes and introduce herself and talk about what she sees.
Yes, I'm so excited to be here. Have always had a desire to work here on this beautiful, amazing campus. Always had heard great things about it in the community, and it's just really an honor for me to be able to be here and share time with everybody, and hopefully I'll get around and meet everybody. Still kind of making my rounds and meeting everyone. But yeah, I'm just super excited to be here. It's a beautiful campus, very, very talented staff. Very fortunate. There's just an amazing group of team leaders that are on this campus, and I hope to enhance services and just really provide that great quality care that everybody deserves that's on this campus and part of the Chateau family. So couldn't be more excited to be here.
Well, we certainly are fortunate for you to have joined us, and again, we're looking forward to all the great things, and I know as we go around the room, you're going to have some insights. The great thing, and we've talked about this, is the fact that all of us come from different worlds, and we see things and put a different set of eyes on it as to how someone else that might have a little bit different business model can impact our business model. And so I think it's one of those times where things are going to change, and there's things that the Chateau does well, there's things that the Chateau doesn't do as well, and we're looking forward to all that you're going to bring to that discussion.
I'm so excited. A great team here, so very excited.
All right, thank you. Next, I'll introduce Chelsea Reagan, who is our HR director.
Yes, thank you. So just a couple things that I am most excited about that have happened here recently with us is the rebuilding of our nursing management team. So we have some awesome folks that have been added to our team and have joined our team over the past 6 weeks or so. We have a new director of nursing, Shelly Miller, who has a wealth of experience and knowledge and very passionate about long-term care. So she has done an awesome job in the 6 weeks that she's been with us. We also have shifted our focus away from an ADON role more to infection prevention. And we've added Stacy Williamson to our team, who has 10 plus years of infection control. She worked alongside Shelly at the Veterans Home in Anna, Illinois for many years, and brings a whole new set of skills in that area to our team. So we're so excited to have her as well. And then more recently this week we have Dawn Chamberlain, who joined us as our assisted living coordinator. So she's doing an awesome job and brings a ton of new skills to our team. So we're just really excited about rebuilding that team and having some talented people that all have that passion for long-term care. So I'm really excited about that. And again, kind of what you said, Keith, everybody has a different background, and I think everyone bringing those different skill sets and experiences is just going to enhance the team that we have. So very excited about that. Another thing I did want to mention that I know I've mentioned at other town halls is where we are with turnover. So I am excited to share that turnover was down in 2020 from 61% in 2019 down to 54% in 2020. So I was personally really excited about that, especially given all the many challenges that we had in 2020 and the fact that we were able to still decrease our turnover and maintain some retention in that area was really exciting for me to see. So I definitely wanted to share that. I know we get a lot of questions about turnover a lot, and so just wanted to share some great news there. That was huge. We've also done a lot to increase retention. Recently, we have doubled our orientation time for all new hires just to make sure that everyone kind of gets started off on the right foot and gets the training and the support really that they need to be successful in our organization. So that was something else that we've done recently. We've also increased our presence on social media for recruiting and our recruiting efforts, and has been really successful finding people, whether it's Facebook or LinkedIn or other places. We've really tried to branch out and cast a wider net to just really get the most talented people we can to join our team. So lots of exciting things, and looking forward to all that Morgan brings to the table and her great experience in the HR area and recruiting and all of those things that are personnel. So just excited for where we're headed.
So I'm going to ask you some questions maybe you weren't expecting, and
Okay.
hopefully you can come up with some numbers here. And if you can't,
I'll do my best.
just be like an accountant. Just talk like you remember what the numbers were.
Yeah.
So during this whole pandemic, the number of staff members that ultimately were tested positive was,
Oh gosh, I should know this number. Wasn't it around? Was it around 20 or? No, it was around 50 or 60 actually. Yeah, it was around 50 or 60. Yeah, sorry, I went blank.
Yeah, no, that's okay. But and to my point, I didn't expect you. So like I said, I was
Yeah.
going to do that kind of off the cuff here.
Yes.
So if you assume that 60 is the number, and 60, I think it was 60 something.
I think it was 62.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So when you look at a current staffing at any given point of 200, let's just say, as a round number.
Yes.
And 60 people over a period of time were isolated for multiple weeks. Mm-hmm. And then you start doing the math on the close contact issues that you have. So you have staff working with other staff that just because one tests positive, multiple people may not necessarily be at work. The ability to manage through a staffing crisis like that is amazing and a huge credit, because it's from the whole team. I mean, we all, everybody jumped in and did what they need to. Rachel or Marcy, or we've got Marcy driving buses, and we got Laura waiting tables, and we got so a credit to everyone. But just managing through, how do you get enough staff here to take care of our residents is extremely important. So I think that is just a really huge accomplishment. And then secondly, I'd just like to tell you we appreciate the fact that as we've gone through the transition between Amy and Morgan, we had a window there of about 30 days that we needed to keep the ship headed in the right direction. There are lots of issues you have to deal with. We have to have a license that's held by an individual that can be responsible as administrator of a health system. And Chelsea has always exhibited the willingness to go try things and expand, her knowledge, and always is really thoughtful and patient. And a lot of the issues that you deal with are personnel related. So Chelsea and I had a conversation, and just her excitement about taking that on, and the way you handled it with such professionalism and class always will be appreciated. So thank you for that, and thank you to everyone who helped us kind of maneuver through some of those challenges that we have. So, thank you. Next, I'm going to turn it over to the guy that breaks everything and then fixes it to keep himself, employed here. So, John Huff is our Director of Maintenance.
Good morning. I'd like to say that we're really excited this year. We're doing several upgrades, as you all have heard. Our train project, we're replacing a lot of our chillers and boilers and upgrading some of our pumps and our air handlers on the 4th floor, which we always know has been a huge problem. We're really excited. We're doing lighting. As you've all probably seen, the lighting that's been going up. I've heard several good compliments. A lot of the residents are excited. We have a lot planned for this year. The women's bathroom is going. It's been a little bit of a challenge because of getting supplies and stuff, but we're hoping to wrap that up pretty quickly and start on the men's. And our grounds crew is officially mowing now, and we're putting down mulch and rock, and we're super excited about this year. We have lots of projects in mind, and hopefully as the weather gets better, we'll kick them off and we'll see some of the upgrades and how it'll benefit us. And if you have any concerns or anything, feel free to call me, and I'm always happy to talk to everybody.
Yeah, one thing that's amazing and special recognition to our maintenance team. So we went from 7 degrees and a foot of snow to 80 degrees and putting mulch down in a matter of weeks. And I've heard nothing but great things and compliments for John and Kendall and the outside maintenance team. Not that we don't get compliments from the inside, but about how amazing it was for us to deal with all the snow we dealt with. And then we also have a standby. And we've always, or typically, you get a little bit of snow and we bring that third party in here to help us out. Those guys took it on all themselves and then transitioned seamlessly into some of the springtime thing, way ahead of plan on the the mulching and the rocks. And we all recall the times when we didn't get to it until summer, and now we're off to a good start there. So, great job on all of that stuff. The other thing I'd maybe like for you to touch on is the projects that from the train project, the ones that we are in process, the ones that are already complete, and then maybe a short-term kind of a just a recognition of the thing so people know what to expect here in the coming weeks.
Well, actually, as of right now, our VRF project on the health center was completed 2 weeks ago. We are currently in the process of updating our lighting, as you have seen several of the electricians going around. We have the new chiller set, the new air-cooled chiller set on the ground terraces. And starting this week, we will work on the cooling towers. You will notice a crane in the parking lot. There will be a little disruption. We apologize for that, but the crane is supposed to be here today on Tuesday doing the lift. We are going to have to pull the towers and replace the steel, as several parts of it have deteriorated, so please be patient with us. We are hoping to accomplish that within a week, but we are not really sure about that, depending on how things go. And you will actually notice that we are going to start on the air handlers on the 4th floor at the same time as we are doing the cooling tower. So there will be a lot of activity, and please excuse, we will be using the elevators, and we will be as cautious and clean as we can be, but as everyone knows, there will be some noise and some stuff that we have to clean up. But if you have any concerns, once again, just let me know and we will definitely take care of them. And after our air handlers, we are going to replace one of our boilers. We all know that we have got a new boiler, but our other old one is out of date, and we are going to replace that. That will probably be starting sometime in May, as that will probably be wrapping up our project. And we're hoping the lighting project will be wrapped up here probably in about another week or two. And we are having, as you noticed, last year we did work on our wildflower trail. We're super excited about that. Heard lots of compliments. The gravel path is much better, much more stable than the mulch path was. Actually, we have a picnic table down there, and we we encourage everyone to come out, maybe take a picnic down there, eat. It's beautiful this time of year. Everybody can see everything blooming. And I've seen several deer down there, and it's really a nice place to spend some time.
Great job on all of those things. So thank you and your staff for all that you do. And again, looking forward to, we understand the challenges of the last 12 months. So looking forward to all those things now that, we're in a pretty good spot, and looking for all those things that we're going to see done over the coming year. All right, next we got Marcy Winkler. Marcy is our Director of At-Home Services. And, so transportation and all of those things were challenges this year. So Marcy, if you don't mind.
Sure, thank you. One of the biggest challenges that I dealt with was some staffing. We stopped, running the vans to everywhere, and just focused on the essential medical appointments. So trying to find different things for the drivers to do, and they were great as far as filling in with doing a lot of grocery shopping, tons of grocery shopping, and doing companion services and all that stuff. And then also housekeeping. That was something that I took on, I guess mid-year last year. So I'm so excited about the things that we are going to be able to do now. We should have full staff by May 1st. We have started taking residents to beauty shop appointments and out to the grocery store and all those things. I didn't really communicate that out because I wanted it to be kind of a soft launch, make sure that we could handle it, but it's been great. So yeah, we're gonna continue to do that, and hopefully, I know a few times we've taken some assisted living residents out for drives and things like that. So love to get more of that going. With housekeeping, the biggest focus is getting everything back to normal as far as being able to do some of the general maintenance type things. So we are wanting to, beginning May 1st, being able to do things like the window washing and all of that and get that back on track. So I think we're headed in the right direction. I'm really excited, and I'm super excited to have Morgan here to work with on some of the things that actually we were working on before this whole thing started with COVID, and then, to get back to some of those projects.
Marcy's done a great job maneuvering us through this, as we know the challenges with moving people around and getting into places and being as cautious as we needed to be. So, and then when you deal with you have a handful of staff and you lose 2 or 3 because you got an infection and you got a couple close contacts, always dealing with those kinds of things. And again, thank you so much for navigating us through those challenges. All right, next is Patrick Slattery. So he sat at home over the last year playing, what was it, Fortnite, and what were the other games you were playing? So
just that.
That's a cool gig you got there.
Yeah, I was kind of one of the fortunate ones where I could do a lot of my work from home. Of course, I couldn't have done it without John and his team. They were kind of my eyes and ears on the ground here, helping me out a ton over the last year. So I can't thank them enough. Not that they didn't have a million other things going on. And I kind of wanted to reiterate something John said as well, that I think our favorite part of these town halls usually is the questions at the end, and we're kind of going to miss that a little bit. But if you have any questions for me about any of the projects that I talked about today or something I maybe missed, please feel free to reach out. I'm happy to talk with you whenever. The first thing is the Spectrum TV signal issues that we've had in the main building. This has kind of been an ongoing one. As you can imagine, dealing with Spectrum can be kind of tough sometimes. I finally got a local contact, so I'm just kind of waiting with the construction manager to get with me, and we're gonna walk the campus, kind of make sure, get a quote for new cable runs, and make sure we can kind of fix the signal issues that we've had here, at least for the last several years that I know about. A couple other things too. We're going to be updating the resident portal, the Chateau app, and the Chateau website. Stephanie and I are working with our development team, and those are kind of going to be rolling out as they get done. I don't have anything specific or time frame right now, but stay tuned to those. I know we used those a lot over the last year. We're going to continue to use all of those digital communication platforms. The The last thing that you may remember we talked about last time, if you were here, was the smart home technology. So we talked a little bit about the Amazon Alexas for suites residents. We are picking that project back up and starting testing again. Again, just for a refresher, that would be something where you know, it could be used in emergency situations. So if you fall and you need to call the nurse desk or you need to call 911, you could do that. We're also continuing to look at wireless cellular pendants for residents in suites and elsewhere.
All right, good, thank you. And you know, we leaned on technology during the last year a lot. And I think every business and every person during 2020 realized that, you know, some of the good, some bad, but some of the good that technology allows you to do. As we mentioned, we're meeting in here for the first time in a long time. But Patrick was key in making sure that we had the technology and the capacity to do what we're doing today. And that is we still need the distance to also be able to communicate with each other and perform the functions and jobs, you know, we did. So thank you for jumping on that early and managing us through that issue. And I know we have the smart home technologies and those things in the capital budget for this coming year. So I'm going to look forward to, you know, bringing a better product to our residents than we did with the pendants that we had before. And Patrick is going to make sure that those are reliable and we can count on it, because when you push that button, you need to know that someone's coming. And the systems that we had here before, I don't think any of us had that comfort that we were going to, you know, that it was working to our satisfaction and not putting someone at risk. So thank you for all you do, and look forward to what more we're going to do. All right, next we got Laura Bollick, our dining services director. So she went through a few changes over 2020 as well with the way we provide.
Yep, absolutely. You know, I know we've kind of said 2020 was definitely a challenge. We touched on staffing, and you know, I think specifically for the dining department, we went through a lot of logistical and operational changes, from all of a sudden having to serve everybody in their rooms to, you know, soft opening of the dining room, and then everybody's back in their rooms, and you know, and getting each and every one of our dining rooms open and our residents the ability to come out, so we could provide that service to them in the dining rooms. So, so it's been a long road. So the last couple of months, we've had a lot of activity, a lot of changes in a really good way. We have been able to make these positive, well-received changes, such as returning to social hour, having our estates residents back in our main dining room, no more partitions on the tables, being able to have more people at our tables, Saturday breakfasts, culinary corners are back. The list kind of goes on. So it feels really good to be back in this place that is a little closer to normal. So we did start our spring-summer menu cycle recently. So we're excited. We have a lot of brand new recipes that are fresh and seasonal that we're really excited to share with everyone. And we hope you love them as much as we do. So we are looking forward to a few more changes in our next phase of reopening, including daily breakfasts and then the inclusion of guests in our dining room. And we'll be happy to provide more details as they come on that. So, you know, we do have a hardworking kitchen staff, serving staff, and you know, we'll continue to serve you the best that we can.
We weren't worried about any kind of contamination or any kind of, I mean, sanitation, you know, food service and all, and during a pandemic, it just seems like there might be some concerns there about transmission. So I can, it's great to see when you have 60-something staff members, and you know that the majority of the staff that you have here are dining service and healthcare, right? So, and a lot of the, you know, you look at the 60 and you look at the close contact, just from people that were here, there's a tremendous number that weren't at work for periods of time. You dealt with a lot of servers and other people that were having close contact that wasn't coming from someone that was here. So managing through that, being able to make sure that if someone needed a meal, that they were going to get that meal. And you know, the efforts and the process changes that you had to go through to make that happen. And I think we all would say, do I love getting my meal in styrofoam? You know, no, none of us would choose to do that. But I know of instances where, when we had people that would go out and we take special steps to make it special when they come back, to be able to feel like just because they're eating in their room, it feels like the dining room. So you guys went above and beyond in all kinds of areas, and I'm so proud of everybody. A challenge with dining during this had to be amazing. You saw what happened to restaurants and what they had to do, and that experience wasn't very good. And a lot of those didn't make it, or they weren't able to manage through logistically, and you did, and it's a credit. Thank you. Next, we got Miss Kim, who has, she's going to take off her mask, and she's going to untie her wrists because she hasn't been able to sell anything for a year because people couldn't get here. So thank you for your patience with us, and welcome.
Thank you. Yes, it is so great to be opened back up and have people visiting our campus again. It was quite a challenge through 2020, but thanks to our great team, we all managed to get through that. You probably noticed activities starting to pick back up, like Laura mentioned, the social hour being back. We're going to expand those activities as well starting this month with live entertainment coming in. You'll see that happen this week, which we're very excited about. And on the sales side, we opened the doors for tours the 1st of March, and in that time we managed to sell 3 apartments, and we're working on the only house we have available. The one thing we did manage to do through COVID was continue to nurture the people who are interested in our estate homes, so that list has grown. We now have 32 people on that waiting list for an estate home. And of course, continue to work with John through Main Street renovations. We did some updates to the game room, to the library, to the event room, and we hope to continue those renovations as well. And of course, you probably noticed this week already some activities John mentioned in the ladies' restroom, so we're very excited to try to get those renovations complete as well.
Yeah, great job managing us through this. And just because we couldn't come in here, it didn't stop interested parties from being in touch. And at this point, the demand for a home is extreme. It's substantial. We have 29 on the waiting list at this point, or did you sign another one since then?
Yeah, 32.
32. See, so as of a week or two ago, it was 29. The demand is amazing, and so I think as we start to come out of this, there's going to be some incentives for people to, come to a suite or come to a home, or and you heard me talk this morning a little bit in the actuarial study about one of the factors that they saw as a red flag was growth. So how do you expand that offering when there's such demand for it? So I think all of those are going to be fun things to address. They're going to be challenges, but fun things to address. And as we talked about Main Street, maybe you and John might want to comment on this, is we didn't talk about all the pieces, but we talked about the restroom, the game room, some of the things that we've done at this point. We've also, we're looking at, flooring down Main Street. We're looking at especially the exercise room, and John's got some thoughts about not just a little paint and change the carpet and throw a new Bowflex in there or something, but making some substantial upgrades. You want to talk about that a little?
Yeah, our hope is this year, our exercise room is nice, but we would love to expand the room in there. We still have several walls. We would really like to do a demo on all the walls and just keep like one bathroom and put some nicer flooring that is meant for the exercise room and upgrade some of our equipment. It will be a pretty good sized project, and it'll be shut down for a little bit, but our hope is to get started on that, and we think that that will be a very good upgrade, and everybody will be really excited about that.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, and even some expansion in the game room. We have a lot of bridge players here, so John and I have been talking about how to use the game room and maybe the arts and crafts / exercise room to accommodate those bridge groups where they could actually do a little entertaining in those rooms as well, so it's part of the conversation.
Good. And also one of the other items that are on, that's on the capital budget is some upgrades to, you know, not just Main Street, but as you get into the lobby, as you look at some of the guest suites that we've targeted for this year, to help give a, some of them are dated, and the game room was one that was, very dated. So being able to work on those kind of things to bring them up to a certain standard, I think is really important right now. So thank you guys for that. All right, so next we got Miss Rachel Tias, who is our Director of Finance and Administration. And, as we go through and from a lot of the financials you saw this morning, the great work that she has with our auditor, which is Stanley Dernberger Hopper and Associates, and the accuracy of getting that information to them, getting it turned around, and the credibility of those financial statements is a credit to Rachel. So we're extremely appreciative of that. The other part during this last year that, and I'm hoping you'll touch on a little bit, is the demands of making sure we stayed on top of what kind of funding mechanisms were out there for us, how do we go about it, who do we need to work with, making sure that we don't do something that we're going to regret. I know when you go back into the old banking world and they look at some of the funding, the TARP funding and things like that during the banking crisis, people thought the rules were one thing and they turned out to be something else. Absolutely what happened here. So we were extremely cautious, and I was extremely appreciative of all the effort and work that went into making sure that we were able to keep our head above water. So with that, Rachel?
Yeah. I'll talk a little bit on the marketing and reception side of my role first, and then go back into the financials piece. Over the last year, Stephanie has written memos to our independent living groups every week. I can't count the number of those that have gone out. The file is too big. Also has been able to keep up with our required documentation and communication for positive cases, symptomatic cases, and the number of those memos and emails is too numerous to count as well. So I thank her tremendously for keeping up with that. As we go forward though, those independent living memos will be starting to phase out. And as we look at the portal and technology that we have with the Chateau Connection screens and updates and things, those are going to be the places that we will be using going forward for communication and any things that have changed, that will change in the future. So just wanted to let everybody know to look at those places going forward. On the reception side, you'll notice some changes that we've made recently. We've reopened the rehab desk for visitation into that area. So Vicky's back over there again. And working for screening visitors there. We've gone back to our single receptionist in the main lobby. And Mary Lou is there to greet you as you come in now, that we're letting visitors in and things like that. We do continue though to screen everyone that walks through the main lobby. So that's not one group or another, it's every person that walks through. So we ask for your participation and help in doing that quick self-screen when you walk in, and then enjoy your day here. So. Those are just some changes I wanted to pass on to everyone. And then to go back to the financials, to echo what Keith had said earlier, I worked with Stanley Dernberger Hopper for the last month and a half on preparing our financial statement audit. As always, a copy of that is available in the executive assistant's office if you care to look at that. It can be taken off site, but you can view it there. Just wanted to pass that on as well. And then to piggyback off what Keith said as well, there's extensive amounts of funding that I was able to work through, research, and procure for the facility. And I'll just go through a quick rundown of everything that we were able to get in 2020, and then what I've worked on so far in 2021. In 2020, and this is detailed in that financial analysis as well, if you care to read it. We got 1.4 million in PPP funds, $640,000 in provider relief funds, $318,000 in reimbursement from the state of Missouri for COVID testing, and a $2,900 grant for technology. And that was in 2020. In 2020 so far, I've submitted documentation for another $2,500 grant for visitation. We've received $655,000 in employee retention credits. Hopefully we will be able to get that in Q2 as well, based on analysis and research that I need to do in the next upcoming week. We've also got another $143,000 in COVID testing reimbursement for 2021, and another $26,000 in other expense reimbursement, and those were both from the state of Missouri. All told, that's $3.2 million. I will continue to work over the next probably year on the required reporting that comes with those funds. So that will keep me busy.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. And you know, it's still, it's shocking, and I think I mentioned this morning, that if you look at that 318 and the 150-ish, that we're closing in on $500,000 in just testing. We went through this, and to test our residents and test our staff twice a week for a period of months, you know, had we not had that safety net there, that would have cost us $500,000 to do that. And you know, Rachel was key in making sure that we stayed on top of all of those, submitting them, making sure that we were able to get reimbursement. And and then from what we talked about in the audit, we're in a strong financial position coming out of this, and hopefully we can continue with some of the things Rachel's working on into 2021. And then maybe normal is in sight now as we open it up. We've gone around the table. We understand all the issues that we've dealt with. We've tried to make sure that we are going through a reopening process responsibly, so that we don't put anybody in a bad spot and possibly have to undo some things. So as we've gone through that, you know, we tried to be conservative on what we can do now and what we can do tomorrow. And you know, that plan was March 1st, April 1st, May 1st. We continue to look at that in our calls that we have multiple times a week, discuss the challenges that we have. I think one of the things that we recently talked about was the masking. You know, you had the mandates and you had the relaxing, and you try to look at who's there, who's screened, who lives in a place, who are the people coming in. And we determined recently that you know, relaxing the whole masking for estate residents now is an appropriate time. Relaxing that mask requirement for staff and visitors. You know, whether May 1 works or masks are here for a little bit longer, we'll deal with that. And with staff, I am not as concerned about you know, them not wearing masks. I think they all are, you know, where they are is they're going to protect you, the resident, and whatever it takes, we're going to do that. So the other issue, and I think Rachel just raised it, and that is as we go through, you know, a lot of these restrictions are restrictions that, you know, whether we agree or we don't agree, you know, we need to do. If we go to the dentist's office and they want to meet us at the door and take our temperature and ask us questions, we understand that's part of it. And if I go to the dentist's office and, you know, and I'm not willing to do that, you know, or the doctor's office, you know, I think they should reconsider whether or not, you know, you're going to come in that day. And so that screening of 3 or 4 simple questions and taking the thermometer and doing that and writing the temperature down at the same time we circle 4 no's is not asking a lot. And you know, whether it's myself or Chelsea or whoever it is that comes through the door, or any staff, they're going through that same process. If it's an estate or if it's a suites residence here, they're going to go through that same process. They come in and out that door. When they come in, they're going to get screened, and they live here. So please be patient. Please be respectful to staff as they go through, and you know, hopefully, you know, we're at the back end of this, and you know, those are the easy things from my perspective, and I hope we'll get your support to understand what and why we're doing those, and be helpful to staff as we go through that. I guess next what we're going to do is we're going to jump into some of the questions that were submitted, and you know, for the ones, and I appreciate that. You know, there is this is what this is about, is understanding, you know, concerns, comments, things that you know we can't see everything. We've got 400,000 square feet under roof, and we have lots of issues when you're maintaining that amount of square footage. If you had a house and you had, you know, 1,500 square foot, let's say, you know, that's 300 of those. If you have one issue a year in a house, you're gonna have 300 of those in all the homes. So it's a daily thing for us, and we try to stay on top of them and manage them. I know I have frustrations at my home when you try to get a contractor in there to fix something that's broke, whether it's a dishwasher or a furnace, and you know, so we work through those issues the same, and for the most part, when we do it, you know, John is on top of it, and it's getting done as quickly as possible. So I want to just address, we'll go through some of these questions, and a lot I think can be answered, you know, maybe at a general level. So the first submission that came to us was concerned about delayed tabled infrastructure issues. Please address, along with timing of repairs and or updates, all of the below are severely limiting our premier status to both residents, visitors, and potential residents. So here's a list of those items. The bathrooms, they start at 1/2020, and I assume that means, you know, we had started talking about that prior to the, you know, the closing down of some of that. We have asphalt crumbling, particularly on the north side of the main building, concrete parking lot crumbling, divot or ding at the main building drop off, and that was a couple years ago. Warped facade on peaks of main building looked terrible. Roof on the main building, and Main Street update to include garden room pub project was planned earlier. Main lobby refresh, fresh, badly worn and dated. North and south lobbies on all floors dated, along with hall carpet. So I think, you know, and we do talk about these things a lot. And if you recall the November, and I'll just take those because I think we answer all those from one source. At the November meeting, when we go through the budget, we always lay out and we share the capital budget items that we have out there that are planned for 2021. So as you go down that, and we had $2.7 million in 2021 as capital improvements. And of that 1.7, and we know 1.7 of that was the train project. So we're going to look at deferring the net cost of all of those over a period of 15 years. So we don't have to get those one-time hits when they happen, and those are going to start to be substantial. So about $1 million in capital expense or capital investment that we're going to make in 2020 that's planned. So I'll just go down a couple of those items because I think, you know, we talked about this, we showed these at the November meeting, just a refresher that that these are planned. So these go back a way, so it's not, you know, these things are noted, which is always good as the CEO to understand when staff comes and says, here's what we think we need to do, here's where the projects that we need to do and the timing of that we're ahead of the game. So they're being addressed. So let's just talk the Main Street renovations, which includes restrooms, exercise room, library, hallway. We had targeted $50,000 for that capital investment. New tables and chairs for the main lobby. We got about $8,000 there on that in the budget for this year. Replace carpet on north and south common areas, 1, 2, 3, and 4th floors, $18,000. And we met with the carpet guy here in the last month, I would say.
Yes.
You know, so now that was one of the first things we did after we were allowing visitors in to be able to take a look at some of those items. Repair and replace the gables on the main building. Those are I think the warped facade that we're discussing, $6,500. As you recall, the ones that were really in bad shape, much worse shape, John, than the ones on this building were the health center that we replaced 2 years ago, I believe. We had all that. So the next step was to come up here and do that part of this building. So it's in the budget. Repair concrete in estates and lobby parking, $50,000. And we know we have crumbling areas in the streets and crumbling areas in the parking lot. It was a couple of years ago when we went and took some out. We can't take out the whole parking lot at once just because we have to have access. So, but I think we can take some big chunks out of it at $50,000 to do those repairs. update guest rooms, $45,000. Refresh halls on all floors, drywall and paint, $25,000. Update the garden room, which is what I think was referred to as the pub, $25,000. And flower arrangements for the main lobby of about $3,000. So again, you know, we understand. I feel good that our staff has paid attention and is taking the steps to make these happen. And you know, it's in our 2021 budget. As we talked about when we also did that budget was expectations, you know, not understanding what our cash flow was going to look like. Every year when we start the year, and staff knows this, we'll put together a capital budget and then it's like, well, how quick can I do it? And you know, the reality with anybody is you got to wait and kind of see how you get started there to understand. If you have challenges during that year, you got to look at the ability to defer things or time them in a different way than maybe was planned. So our projected cash flow for the year of 2020 without any subsidized funding was going to be a negative $900,000 with all of those capital improvements that we talked about and a lot of others in that. So the hope is as you get into this, you're going to be able to navigate and tweak as you start to understand better what cash is available to reinvest in CapEx. And also, you know, another part of that budget preparation and discussion with in the town halls were how do we compare to other CARF-related facilities as far as how we reinvest our depreciation or our non-cash expense there into our CapEx. And you know, from prior years, we are in that 50th percentile of those CARF facilities, and we know those CARF facilities are also, you know, they're the top of the line. You know, we're not talking about an average of, you know, of just, you know, what all kinds. These are CARF-related continuing care retirement communities that are accredited like us. So I think we do a nice job. I think, you know, hopefully that you've heard as we've gone around the room here and we've talked that we have our hands around a lot of those things and they are in the process. And you know, obviously there were issues over the last 12 to 18 months that was going to cause us to have to manage through those processes a little different. Next submission, and I'm sorry, I'm going to turn some of this over to you guys here, but I thought I could answer a lot of those questions just globally to understand that many of the things that we've identified have already been targeted and approved by our board last year, and we're going through the process right now of taking those steps to put those in place. And so, you know, we understand. Thank you. The next submission, please discuss the non-productive land at Dalhousie, Chateau Dalhousie. While adjacent country club lots are now listed at reduced prices, I didn't see that article. It references an article. I hope Chateau Investment remains positive and has a future value. And you know, I think the one thing that we can assure, and this discussion happened with our board during our audit review, and that was, as you look at that investment, we've also invested in some of the other steps to say, how can we use this and what can we do? No question during this pandemic and during this period of time, if we had focused on continuing down a path, understanding we have 32 people on a waiting list, if we had continued down that path and given the impression that our main focus was not on the safety and security of our residents here on this campus, we would have made a grave mistake. And I think it was a wise decision from our board to put that on pause. And you look at the real estate market out there right now, John, there's no houses for sale in Cape Girardeau. There are, you know, construction, if you can swing a hammer, you can do construction. The reason there's no houses on the market right now is because the cost of construction, you can't afford to do it for what it's going to appraise for. And you made a comment the other day that a 2x4 used to cost
$2, and a year ago today you could have bought a 2x4 stud for $2.25. Right now, a 2x4 stud will cost you $8.50. A piece of OSB that used to, we thought you could buy for $10, $11 was considered high. today is $46 a sheet. So the cost of construction, and it is only going to get worse for the short term.
Yeah. So we've got to balance two things. We've got to balance demand, and then we've got to balance construction costs here as to when and how and if that an investment in a development like that makes sense. So all of that, there's a strategic planning committee meeting that will be going on here that's scheduled in the coming days that will talk about all of the campus redevelopment options, outside campus redevelopment options, opportunities inside, whether it's services, whether it's memory care and assisted living, whether it's upgrades to the assisted living on the ground floor, how we can manage through all of that stuff is part of this. And then the other part of the investment issue of that question is, as we went through this audit, one of the things that we considered was, here's the value of the property, and here's the value of what we've got invested in the property total, and do you have an impaired asset? And an impaired asset is an asset that you'd be carrying on your books that you'd be concerned doesn't have the value that you carry it for. We've been approached 3 times, I believe, in the last 3 to 4 months as to whether we have an interest in selling that piece of property. And I can assure you that the value that it has exceeds what the cost that we're carrying that at. So I think we're all comfortable, and I think this was comments from board members, is if that investment is one that we don't decide to build on at some point, it's a great piece of property that's going to hold its value and we're not going to lose money on. And I don't think that has changed any since we made that decision. Okay, next question. Also, with an anticipated full opening of the dining room for all, also guests, a new itemized cost sheet for residents and guest items would be helpful. So Laura, I don't know if you want to talk to that.
Sure. Our current itemized pricing can be found in your ancillary handbook. If anybody needs a new one of those, please let me know or Kim know, and we'd be happy to get you one of those. Pricing is something that has been a conversation and will continue to be a conversation, and we'll update you when we have any updates.
Okay, good. And is that a discussion item for your First Friday food service? Is that a food service committee discussion? Is that just a communication that goes out to residents that we drive?
Probably more of a communication piece that we would drive.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll let them know when we have more information on that. But if anybody needs a copy in the meantime, we'd be happy to provide it.
All right, thank you. Next question, number 1, with aesthetic upgrades, lighting underway in the halls, and we talked about that just briefly. Consider an energy audit, Ameren or maintenance, to determine losses due to leakage, which would be correctable. So, I don't know if you'd like to talk to that. I know part of the whole train project is because we have incentives and rebates that we were going to get. So we have a $1.7 million investment that ultimately, with carrying costs and interest, is going to be over $2 million. The net cost of the chateau with the incentives and rebates that we're going to get is like $900,000, something like that. So we've actually applied for during those projects with this lighting and other energy efficiency. So I don't know if you want to talk to that.
Yeah, actually we had a lighting auditor that goes around through facilities and audits facilities and helps you with your lighting upgrades and how much you can save and incentives. They did go through that, and that is the reason for our upgrade. We can save several thousands of dollars with our upgrade to LED as opposed to our old incandescent stuff. They are doing all of independent living, and as we go through in the future, we plan on continuing that to help our savings and to do some of that work ourselves after we do accomplish all of this. It's always going to be our goal to strive to upgrade and save where we can on our products where we are able to at all times. As far as the audit, it went very well. He was very complimentary on us upgrading all our stuff. They were very professional, and they went over every aspect of the health center, assisted living, independent living, where we can save and where we're doing a good job. So we are very thankful for that, and I think we're in a good spot as to this point.
But I think one of the things that plays into this energy efficiency and some of the savings that we've got that we've talked about several times over the last year, but I'd like for you maybe to address it as it relates to the specifics of this project. And that is the air handlers and the ability to bring air into the building and the challenges that, you know, I think over the years we hear people say that our doors and windows aren't efficient. And then you get those people that say our doors and windows are efficient and they're the best, you know, but if we're moving air the way we move air, that we're going to have air come in because it has to come from somewhere. So maybe if you could just jump in and kind of explain what we're doing and the impact of what we've been dealing with as it relates to efficiency, I'd appreciate that.
Well, actually, we had an audit as opposed to airflow, which is always a very big topic. We are a negative air building right now, which means that we are not putting as much air into the building as we are taking out, and which causes a lot of our air drafts coming through doors, windows, because our building is trying to get air in because we are not producing enough air. With our air handlers, we're going to upgrade that. Right now, for both ends, the auditor said, he goes, you are getting about 50% of what you need because our coils were so clogged and old. We're very exciting right now that when we get done with this project, we are going to be very close to a break even to a positive air, which is going to help our building immensely. We all know when you walk in the lobby door, it feels like you're opening the whole building to the outside world because air rushes in that fast. So when we get our air handlers in, we will get another audit done by our pressure guy, and he will tell us exactly where we're at, which I will be happy to share as soon as we are done. And from that, we will go from that point. We are looking at some different tweaks that we can do to help our building, and that is going to be a big part of our project. We're hoping in the next 2 to 3 weeks to accomplish that goal, and that will, this summer, we're hoping to see how that value works for us as far as our drafts and all of that.
That's good for our residents to know. We've talked about that before, and we understand we've got drafts. All of us have drafts. This room, you know, during the cold, but it's, you know, it's not the infrastructure itself as far as the building, the windows, the doors. That it is, it's a mechanical issue that is being addressed with this. And I think you mentioned to me that when the guy came in and looked at those numbers, told you that, you know, if you could look at the glass that on the windows, maybe you want to share that, what it would look like.
Yeah, he said he could actually see the glass flexing. He was quite amazed that we were pulling that much air in.
Yeah.
And he said this will help your building a ton. And actually, as far as positive and negative air, really the only place you really want negative air is in a surgery room, not in your home or anything. You always want to be positive. You always want to be pushing air out, not pulling it in, because you're always going to be pulling cold air or hot air in your building when you're trying to actually cool or heat. You're going to be doing the opposite of what you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah. Thank you for taking the time and explaining that, because we do get that question quite often, and the easy assumption is it's coming through my door, and therefore it must be the door, and it's really not the door. So I think that's a good explanation. Let's get into some of these other questions now. What will be done about the deteriorating older concrete streets in the estate? So maybe you could talk a little bit about timing and some of the plans. I know we talked about patches and they didn't work very good. That was a recommendation that came to us. So talk a little bit about what the plan is.
Well, as the weather changes this year, we are currently getting bids to do some of that. We have a certain amount allotted, and we all know that we have several spots, and we are going to address those as far as need. We will go down a list and, prioritize from our worst to the best. We know our parking lot. We're hoping to replace some parts up here and some parts down there in the estates this year. Just be a little patient with us as we try to get through some of these projects to prioritize some of our concrete projects.
All right, thank you. What will be happening with Ramsey's Run? How much is that costing each year? So I think we addressed that earlier, and it's one of those issues that our strategic planning committee from our board of directors is taking up here in the coming days, and we'll see where it goes. But I think the reality is real estate is appreciating rapidly in this market. So at this point, that's a good thing for the Chateau. What arrangement is there for nighttime security? What phone number do residents, especially in the States, call in case of prowlers?
We do have a full-time security guard. Our night custodians are from 3 to 11. They do make rounds randomly through the estates. Our security guard starts at 10:30 and works till 7. You will see him driving around in the pickup with the strobe light. If you do see a prowler, absolutely call the nurse's desk, but my suggestion would be to call the police department first. And because our security guard is security, but he is not, physically armed or anything. But if you have any fears or anything, just call the nurse's desk. They will get a hold of him, and he will be right down to check out any problems or concerns that you have.
All right, thank you. Will the train HVAC improvements raise the monthly service costs for residents? And I think we talked about the capital budget. Those are included in there. And the way that we're carrying that, it ultimately creates much less risk, is from a much less risk from a financial perspective, as we don't get those one-time hits. So it's planned in with our budgeting process, and should not impact rates per se, because that's part of what we do normally. It's just we're going to do it in a more structured and straightforward way, and even level way. So I think the things that would impact our rates, and we talked about that a little bit earlier this morning in our audit and actuarial piece, and that is, making sure that our pricing, as we know, our pricing model was determined to be weak. So determining how we share those rates appropriately will get factored in when we do our budgeting for this year. And those issues about pricing might impact the rates of some. So again, we'll talk about that come November. What is the covered object next to the sidewalk at the corner of Mount Auburn and Independence in front of the Chateau entry wall?
Actually, that was from a SUV hitting that and busting it up pretty good. The SUV was quite damaged. That is the city covering that. So we are actually waiting on the city to fix that. That is the controller box for the stoplights on the corner right there. I don't really know the status of that. I'm sure that's on their budget, but I do not really know where they're at this point.
You'd think that the SUV driver would have had insurance that could have paid the city to fix that.
You would think.
You never know. Can the Chateau properly repair the brickwork on the low wall to the left of entrance B where it seems to be falling apart? I know we dealt with that here a while back, a little bit.
And actually, as far as that brick wall goes, it is pretty much compromised. So it's not just a fix of putting a few bricks back. The whole thing is actually structurally not going to hold up. So that is something that we will have to look at in our budget to redo or change the outlook on that. We are in the process of looking at that, but as far as just putting the brick back, they will not stay there because it is the water is frozen and melted so much it is physically cracked all the more.
Okay, we'll take a look at that, and we'll incorporate that into our planning. And I know when we, probably going on 6 years ago now, one of the first things that we looked at, we had 3 entrances into the Chateau. One was a crumbling asphalt piece that connected closer to Mount Auburn, which was really a safety hazard. We rerouted the road that came in entrance A now. We placed that monument sign there because, as we recall, when we entered, there's been comments and you see about Premier, and that really didn't look Premier. And so it was, let's put this monument sign. You come in, the sign hits you right in the face. You're here. The reaction from residents at the time was, wow, what an improvement. So I think we're gonna have to continue to maybe take that same thought process and go to entrance B and incorporate some improvements down there. If it means taking those monuments down or those brick facades down and doing something different, I think we ought to consider that as we go through. But yes, I know we dealt with it, we tried to fix it, and we couldn't. Will members of the board of directors ever have informal get-together meetings with residents, at least some persons from each group, so that they can become acquainted with each other and learn more about our respective interests? So, and again, I have a tremendous respect for our board of directors. I think they do a great job. They're volunteers. They bring different perspectives to the business and the community. So have a lot of respect for them and the time that they give to the Chateau. So I served on the board before I took on this role, and you have your own commitments as well. So it's not something that we can say, hey, you've got to come here. I'd love to. They're invited to every Friday social or what. I mean, there's a standing invitation, and it was known by me then, and I think it's known by our members now. We invite them to our special events. We're looking at, as John mentioned, the Wildflower Trail and a dedication that's going to happen here on the 21st of April. They'll be invited to that. So, I would encourage those that see those running to have them come by. But we also have to be respectful of them and their time. And, I'm sure that we will. And we've been very fortunate to have Paul Cairns and Vernon Costin and others that have been chairs to sit in on these town halls and to be able to share their thoughts and their insights. And, at the town halls where they were actually present and, there for people to talk to. So we'll continue to encourage that. And again, our board is governance and oversight. So, there is, understanding where we are is important. And we have 3 resident board members that are here that can always share, perspective and bring, and that's the reason that we have them on the board, is perspective of residents and, and understanding some of the challenges when you present a capital budget or you present an operating budget, to share those perspectives as we do our planning for those coming years. So next question, the same applied to the CEO and Chief Administrative Staff, which is everyone in here. Will any of these staff ever socialize at the social hour when COVID restrictions are gone? I'd say absolutely. I know, there for several years, Bill Ford, who we all miss, and great friend, and got to work with him, and tremendous respect for Bill. Miss him a lot. And I'd go down there on Friday, and he, Bill, he'd sit there, oh, thank you, so, it's so good to see you. He said, you are the first CEO that would ever show up at one of these social hours. And I don't know if he was saying I drink too much, or if it was just, but there was an appreciation. And I know over the last year or so, we haven't had social hours. So yes, I intend to make those, and I know Kim participates. I know Morgan's plan is to continue to participate. So hopefully you had a chance to spend a little time with Morgan, as and I think you'll really appreciate all she'll do. So yeah, I'm going to encourage all my staff here and at other times to always be open to attending those events, whether it's a town hall or it's a it's a musical or it's something else, to just stick your head in and be available. Another thing that's going to be my intent, which I started a little bit before we kind of got locked up in our offices here, is to regularly get out and walk the neighborhood. And if you see me walking, I encourage you to come outside and let's talk. If you got an issue, catch me. And if I need to schedule it and say, hey, I'm going to do it the 3rd Tuesday of every month, and I'll do it in the mornings, just so that I'm happy to do that. John and I had talked about in years past where I've actually got on a tractor and been down there driving. So if you see me out there, mowing your yard this year, which I intend to do some, don't be afraid to come out and stop. I told John if I do that, and I only get like you know, a 10 by 30 area mode. It's because I had a lot of conversations, but hopefully you're going to see all of that happen. I know we've got a team. Morgan brings a great perspective here as to how we can do things and understand that this is a customer service experience. So I think that as we come out of this, obviously staff, we're still being very careful with getting them out and about. Just because the virus is still out there, and it's not an excuse, it's a reality. But I do think as you start to see us open up more, May 1 being another one of those target dates, and then you start to get into the summer, that you are going to see more and more participation of staff out and about. And please know that anytime you have a question for any of our staff, that we're there and open. So hopefully we can build that confidence again. And I know it's been a long time, and I think we are as frustrated with being cooped up as our residents are of us not being available. So you will see some changes there. But I think that was the questions that were submitted. I'd like to, anybody else? Morgan, I started with you and you didn't really get a chance. Anything you want to share here before I kind of wrap this up?
Yeah, no, I mean, we're just excited to be able to have visitors and taking admissions. So we've been taking admissions and they've been steady, they've been coming in. So that's been really exciting for us. That's kind of been on hold for a while. So into the health center and the assisted living, we're rocking and rolling. So we're excited.
So as we've done town halls in the past, and you guys have seen, and this might sound a little quirky, but I do think it goes to the work that these folks have done over the last 12 months. As you recall, in some of those, there were pages taped onto the table. And as we were preparing for these meetings, I was taking the taped pages off. So just to share, you know, the efforts and the length of time that these people have gone through that. Bear with me, but here was March, and you can see a little of the color. And if you recall, when all of this started back in March of 2020, March the 12th was the first day that this group as a whole kind of started meeting in here. And we would say, okay, we got through a day, Got a green square here. If you remember, the initial reaction was, what was it, 14 days to flatten the curve? It took more than 14 days, believe it or not. So what we did was we put targets on here. Let's get ourselves safe to that point, and people are going to tell us that we've got, you know, we're starting to head in the right direction. This was March of 2020. Here was April of 2020, and no real issues at that point, no positive cases. So after we got past the end of March and our, 14 days to flatten the curve, surely by the end of April, we're going to be in a better place. All right, and then we didn't seem to be getting in a better place, and this is when, across the country things started to get worse. So, you set up, here's another month. Let's go out another month and let's just live through this. So every day along the way, we're Xing those boxes in pink, saying, okay, we got through another day. We're trying to find time. The solution to this is not, we're going to come up with some magic bullet that's going to make it go away. It is, we've got to deal with the time and make sure we can keep people safe as long as we can. That was May. Here was June. We set another target date in June. Here it looks like, okay, the cases are starting to fall a little bit, and so here we are. We got through that green box, and so July comes along. And these were the first cases that we had. You see the two blue boxes of staff members that were positive. On July the 9th was when we learned that we had a positive staff member. And then on July the 12th, we had another one. You start to see, now we're into August, we're seeing multiple pluses, numbers inside the boxes of positive residents. The first residents that were reported positive on August the 21st. And then another two on August the 30th. So, and then we get into September and October when the challenges of this whole pandemic really came on, when we started getting 6 staff members and 4 residents from testing, 6 residents and 8 staff members for testing, positive from testing, a staff member, 2 staff members. You start to see September, and then October, it doesn't get any better. We're still sitting here with numbers coming at us pretty hard, 5, 4, 3, all on these certain dates. And not just them, that's just the ones that tested positive, not the ones that were in isolation or quarantine. November starts to really get to where you got 5, 1 in AL, 4, 3, 4, 3, 5, 6, 7, 4, 5, 3, 1. Those are staff members that were testing positive at that point. In December, we're still chasing that, and we've got all of these people, and we're trying to make sure that we keep everyone safe along the way. Then we get into January. January, you'll see the green one right here with the little, you probably can't see it on your screen. This says vaccine. That was when staff finally got vaccinated and residents in all of our skilled areas. And at that point, you see that little ray of hope that's out there that we're starting to head in a better direction. Although we still have a few cases popping up along the way. We get to February, vaccine number 2, all right? And at that point, we know we're just about to the end of to the point to where the risk profile of losing residents and others in the community is getting reduced substantially. So that was a huge day, and that was February the 2nd. We actually had 1 positive staff member the day after that. And then we get into March, and we're reopening dining. We got on the 2nd, we got our 3rd round of vaccines for those that needed to get vaccinated and did it on the 2nd round. We had 1 blue dot that was a positive staff member that ultimately was determined to be a false positive. So as we get into February and March, you see that we went through that bubble of really challenging things. We navigated it, and that's a credit to everybody that's sitting at this table, and not just sitting here, but everybody that's working in this building. And we go through this, and one thing and this is a pile of, as we sat here and I met in here, of letters, notes, best wishes from residents and families. And a lot of times you get at these kind of events, and you talk about the broken concrete, and we talk, and we got to fix those, and those are all really important. But when you got a pile like this, and you go through a year of people saying, thank you so much for keeping us safe. Thank you for all that you're doing. Thank you for your patience with us. Thank you. That's what keeps us all going. And that's what we're here for. And that's what I want to make sure when we get to these things. Sure, we all have challenges, and we're doing our best to do that. And these people went through that period of time, and they know they were appreciated. And to me, that is why it's easy for this group to stick together and come to work, because we know that the majority of people here understand the effort that was taken to make sure they stayed safe and healthy, and maybe not always agreed with the things we had to do it, but they understood why we had to do it. And so I can't be more proud of a group, now that we're at this point, to look back and say, you guys are unbelievable. And it wasn't easy, and there were days when you'd love to throw your hands up and say, I don't know how we're going to do this. And nobody did that. And as a leader, it wasn't me. I can sit here and have the best or worst ideas in the world. It's these guys that went out there and said, I've got to make some tough decisions. I've got to do the right thing, and I'm going to do it for the right reason. And if you get a chance to see these people, take the time to say thank you. And that goes so far. And and from my perspective, unbelievable team. And the other thing I want to say is thank you guys, our residents, our family. I know, my father went through an issue during the year and unfortunately passed. He stayed here for a while, and it's heartbreaking to see. It's heartbreaking to see for families to not be able to be there and hug their loved ones. It's not, they're not able to spend the time. I got a personal experience of that as well. And so I get it. And, it would be so fulfilling to just say, forget all the rules, it's more, we got to do, and, so those were, heart, pulling at your heartstrings, some of the decisions, some of them out of our control, some of them in our control. But please know that we're thankful for all of the patience and understanding and support during this process, and you know, you are appreciated very much. So with that, unless someone else has something else to add, thank you guys for being patient. Hopefully this was informative, and you know, we look forward to July. Again, May 1 being another target date to start to, you know, relax some things. Hopefully in July, we're all going to be sitting in the lobby, and we'll be standing up there, and you can throw rocks, or you can give hugs, or you can do whatever it is that we're going to choose to do. But hopefully we're going to do it face to face at that point. Please know that all of our staff is always open. Don't be afraid to call, ask. And thank you again. Be safe. Enjoy the spring, and look forward to all the really neat things that are going to happen in 2021. So thank you.